So recently I had my burnout from making videos and just playing Langrisser as a whole. I won't go into detail about why that is, but moving along, with a ton of many amazing characters that's been releasing, and I mean a ton of amazing characters, even some who are just outright broken. One of the characters on the horizon that a lot of people will be going crazy for is a character named Isolde. One of the biggest reasons is that she's a mythical faction buffer. Pretty much all that I know about the character so far. They've finally done it after releasing so many mythical characters. I was really hoping for this day to come due to all of that. Isolde is a physical attacker that's part of the Meteor, Euless, and Mythical faction that can be either infantry or a dragon unit. Her talent increases attack and defense, and it doubles when fighting dragons. At the end of action, she can choose to gain a will effect that has a 2-turn cooldown. Whoa, hold up. These are pretty insane. So 1 lets her ignore guard, 2nd increases her skill damage, 3rd reduces her skill cooldown by 1 turn. When you have all 3 wills, you deal more damage and can act again after attacking. Does she keep all these talent buffs permanently? That's some wild stuff. Other than that, it's gonna take a long while to really get this character going in order to maximize her damage potential and for it to act again. For once, she gives her debuff immunity and can block 25% of max HP, so it's a shield basically, and also reinforcement for 2 turns when she loses that shield. She can move 4 blocks to attack, and after using the skill, buff's duration does not go down. So this just better increases her survivability, so you don't really have to worry about dying too much, or really worry about taking too much damage. Her 2C, you can choose to release 1 skill through will, and the cooldown as well. When she chooses Lonely Brigade, it's a single target that reaches 2 blocks. Its damage is treated as magic, and melee soldiers can attack with her. Then she can move 3 blocks after attacking. It's not too bad, because after choosing that talent buff, she can ignore guard. So just attack and she can move back pretty safe. When you choose her 2nd talent buff, it's an AoE that reaches 2 blocks and applies buff block and revive disable for 2 turns. Her 3rd talent buff lets her heal 30% HP that's used on itself that reaches 3 blocks around her, which will apply regeneration and damage taken reduction by 15% for 2 turns. Ooh yeah, so that's nice. That's really nice. Especially since it's fixed healing rather than being based on her own attack value, so it's a lot better in that regard. A really good 2C I'll say for situational purposes. Her 3C passive, when the talent effect will or her act again is triggered, all mythical allies are buffed up and their melee attack damage is increased by 50% and takes less reflect damage by 30% for 4 turns. This is a single target. If you have 2 more wills, the enemies will not be able to attack in battle. After battle though, she does AoE damage to the target that reaches 3 blocks in a straight line behind them. When killing an enemy, she gets a random will that she doesn't have. There's the faction buff I was looking for. The special buff effect that increases melee damage is pretty good. So yeah, as long as she does her talent buff or is able to act again from her talent, it seems like she'll always reactivate it. The 3C itself, it's alright, if I'm gonna be honest. You have to set up this character in order to attack safely. Everything else after that is just extra damage, which I don't think is something that crazy. Like, you might be able to 2-tap things probably. Then if you're able to kill, this will set her up faster. Isolde is looking really insane so far. Not broken by all means in my opinion. Although if she really does keep that ignored guard permanently from her talent, that right there would be really broken. 1C is dummy good, just better survivability overall, and her 2C is also really good, especially that healing right there. Just a great situational skill. Then you got her 3C for the faction buff, which is a huge problem nowadays when it comes to new faction buffers coming to the game. It's a good and bad thing because that means we don't have to use up a skill slot to carry a standalone faction buff skill. Veteran players gets a lot of privilege when it comes to those type of characters, but to the players that are still trying to level up their accounts, it's a huge different story because they need to be at that level in order to unlock 3Cs. Not only that, they need to farm the materials that they can only get by farming the later part of the time rifts, which some of them might struggle in. I know you can get some of these awakening materials by doing the other events, but even then, those still require like strong characters, like for example, a Forbidden Battleground. So the time rift is going to be their main source to get those materials. There's also her having the setup to really get going for more damage and especially to act again, which will be annoying. That I would say is the main problem about using Isolde. Bonds will also suck for her because she needs pressure for the attack bond and is going to want her banner partner, Jayce, for her toughness bond. But surprisingly, Jayce only needs Lolly Jessica for his attack bond. But I have seen him be placed quite high on the PvP tier list. I think like double S tier. He's a magic attacker that's part of the Origin, Euless, and Mythical faction that can be either mage or holy. Oh wow, this talent is pretty tiny, so his int gets increased, at the end of action, gains Arcane Trace on the tile that he's on. This terrain has a command that should increase attack and int within 2 blocks and reduces magic defense by 10% for the enemy for 2 turns. After attacking, removes one ally's Arcane Scar and teleports to it. Oh, okay, and it has a high terrain priority. Wow, so that is actually really good, because that way he can attack safely, so like a hit and run thing. Been seeing that quite a lot. His 2C is an AoE that reaches 5 blocks that has a 3 block radius, which applies a special terrain for 1 turn at the target location. This terrain has a command where if enemies within 2 blocks around it reduces their magic defense by 10%, consumes 1 additional mobility per square when moving outside of the command range, and teleports them to the center of the terrain if they are within the command range at the end of action. Okay, so this range is pretty good, can stretch quite far, and can prevent his opponents from going. His 1C can cast his special terrain on himself, defensive terrain, wow really? Okay, so or on allies, and can move 2 blocks and buffs on him do not go down. Wait, so what does it mean by defensive terrain? Like, does he teleport to it, or like, can he also like teleport that terrain to himself or something like that? I don't know. It just sounds silly. Finally with the 3C. Its passive increases damage dealt up to 30% for every ally on its arcane tile. This is a single target that reaches 3 blocks and ranged soldiers can attack with them, which does more damage to mages. Before battle, if the enemy magic defense is already lowered, then ignore its guard. If the enemy does not die, then it looks like it stuns them. Yeah, honestly, reducing magic defense isn't that hard at all. So yeah, if you're able to lower the enemy's magic defense, he's able to ignore guard from his 3C. Plus, this guy has other ways to lower magic defense, like for example his AoE, while also slowing them down. And that's really the safest way to go about it in order to get that ignore guard. Another positive note about him is that his skills doesn't have too terrible cooldown. And if I'm understanding this right, Jayce can attack incredibly safely so long as he has that tile, that special tile. So he'll always need like what, 1 turn to always set up. So yeah, you're able to do some interesting plays, which is so good. If I had to list some bad things, I would say mainly learning how to position him so that he can suppress his opponents effectively. So if you're someone that enjoys PvP, I think practicing on several maps, especially some with the defensive terrains, will truly be needed if you really want to know how to use this guy so that you can use him at his full potential. Cause I'm looking at this guy and I still feel like kind of confused. So yeah, I definitely feel like he's gonna be someone that's really difficult to really put work in. And especially practicing positioning as well. At this time, CN got 2 new soldiers that Global already got. The Holy Soldier has their healing effect increase, and when using a skill on their allies, they have a 100% chance of reducing a skill cooldown by 1 for a random damage dealing skill. There's the Archer, they get more attack, and when on a grass or water terrain, then they are considered to be on a defensive terrain, which gives you 20% defense. For the exclusives, oh lord, it's Z2. It's for Z2. Oh goodness, okay. It's an armor, okay. So when fighting the enemy with the revive, attack and defense increases, okay. When she triggers her revive, her own soul thingy spawns where she's at? What? Absolutely broken. She arguably still feels like that in this day and age, but this armor is just so mind-blowing. This next one should be an armor for Polly. Her damage increases for every skill on cooldown. After successfully displacing an enemy, she gains reduces healing effect by 30% for all enemies within 2 blocks as a command effect for 1 turn. I mean, I can hardly ever see that damage increase ever working, but I really do like that command effect. Just makes it harder for the opponents to sustain for the next follow-up attack. With the casting skills, ooh, okay, we got Christaine. She gets more HP magic defense after releasing Whisper? I think that's what it's called in global. Yeah, it's something like that, Whisper. She gets I believe it's both of her passive skills. It should be like the passive skills that she already carries. Second is for Altemuller. His talent is undispellable and can accumulate 1 more of it. At the end of action, if he has 3 more stacks of it, then he heals 20% HP. Number 1, I had no idea you were able to dispel those. Number 2, that passive healing isn't bad since he can stack them quite easily. It just makes him better at sustaining. Third is Ashemar. Her dance partner can get 2 blocks of free mobility when passing through 2 blocks of terrain around them. Which I'm gonna put in simple terms, that most likely, that dance partner can mitigate 2 blocks of mobility restriction as long as they have that. Fourth and final one is for Imelda. After using her 3C, she can also apply regeneration and fixed damage immunity for 2 turns. Yeah, I feel like those buffs are like unnecessary, I would say. Cause the 3C encourages you to rush in, since it gives you a ton of offensive buffs. So yeah, I don't really know how I feel about this one. So this one feels pretty lame. I kinda feel like that they didn't know how to go about with this one, and just do some stuff on her. Maybe if it offered like damage take reduction and like defense or magic defense, it would have been a lot better. But yeah, I don't know if you guys agree with me on that one. For the interesting banners that I could find, There's gonna be a Reddit for Pressia. Really good idea to get her to unlock Angel's bond, and getting Pressia will let you unlock Isolde's attack bond as well. Then there's gonna be a Destiny banner with Lolly Jessica, a very good magic attacker that has constant pseudo healing with one of her skills, and is able to build up her range. But that depends on her star level, which you do want her to be at 6 stars in order to maximize it. Unless you have her exclusive, which does give her an extra stack, so having her at 5 stars, if you have that, will still maximize her range. As for the content that Sion got in this update, for Arena, and a new farmable event, although I think it's new. I'm pretty sure it was a Halloween themed event, since its update took place in October, so maybe Global will get it either way, or maybe they'll do something else. Then we got this Anarchy slot machine thingy rewards. I forget what it's called, but you basically farm the currency from the Secret Realm stages, and use those currency to grab rewards in this event. With the new skins, we got the Echo of Light for Isolde and Jayce. Isolde looks nice, but I'm digging Jayce's new look a lot more. He just poses off a lot better. Around this time, Season 16 ended, and the champion skin for Grenchill got introduced. This design goes kinda crazy, not gonna lie. Then in Season 17, a gold skin for Anna, and the soldier skin for the Redeemer when you reach Silver. Man, they have been absolutely killing it with the art character skins. Really appreciate the love that they get. There was an Omega Halloween skin that all servers should have gotten since this update took place around Halloween. Then finally, a martial law skin for Leo Beck. Oh, this has to be one of his best skins so far. Actually, I dig his gaming skin a lot more. I personally like it a lot more. Just my personal opinion. Alright, so that should be everything, if not most of everything that CN should have gotten. I've been really anticipating having another faction buff characters come into the game, especially for the mythical team, because that's what most of the characters that we've been getting are a part of. We're definitely going to see more team synergy, especially since Isolde is very good herself, that you can actually make use of, unlike Gizroth and even Odious. I don't think she's broken by all means, but she is going to be very powerful. Although if she really does ignore guard like all the time from her talent, that right there would be absolutely broken. Jayce on the other hand is going to be a very tricky character to know and how to use, but he can attack and fall back safely when you set up his towel and is able to slow down his enemies with that AoE. I'm still kind of confused about Jayce's whole entire gameplay, so he's someone that I'm really gonna have to look into once he gets really close to global. But that's all I got for you guys. If you guys did enjoy this video, feel free to leave a like and subscribe if you want to see more, and feel free to let me know down in the comments what you guys are looking forward to in this update that CN got. Like how you feel about the characters and everything else. So yeah, thanks for watching. Your fellow Z.